Hi again then guys, and welcome to yet another big money earning setup for Gran Turismo Sport, and this one is in N300, just like my tune for the GT40, and of course what is still at this point the best car all round for this, the KTM Crossbow. And that car I don't think is going to be beaten unless we get the light car company Rocket, because that's potentially the only car that could do it even better for a similar price. This is certainly not the most affordable thing around, of course, at 15 million credits, but that's the great thing about these tunes and the event on Blue Moon Bay, which if you're unfamiliar with, just click the link down below and you can check out what I'm talking about. But basically, with this car and this tune, you can earn 375,000 credits every 12 minutes, which of course is easily well over 1 million credits an hour. So you do it a couple of times a day, you can easily pay for the car itself multiple times over and buy plenty of others too. So, as far as the tuning itself, you don't want to touch the power upgrades at all because you don't need to. Just drop the power limit to 98% to allow it to run in N300. Then as far as weight, I've opted to not actually upgrade it, which, you know, you should really, it makes it even better. But the reason why is because it costs a bomb. Now, of course, I could do that, but I don't plan to use this car as much as the GT40 anyway, so it's not really worth it to me. If, however, you do want to use the Miura, then I would recommend dropping the weight as much as you can, because it does help through the corners. Traction control, we've got turned off. Of course, that's down to personal preference. You want super soft tyres, for obvious reasons, especially on a classic with those skinny little wheels that they used to have. As far as the suspension, we've got the ride height on 100mm, so it's lowered, but it's not slammed. As far as the frequency, we've increased that to 2.1 front and rear. Anti-roll I've got on 6. Compression on the dampers on 64, then with rebound on 92. I've got 1 degree of camber, which really helps out the stability a lot with this car. Neutral toe, of course, no downforce. As far as the diff, I've got the lowest initial torque, and then I would actually recommend playing around with these settings because you can completely change the handling signature of the Miura. Now, I like my cars to be a bit heavier through the turn because it's basically easier to predict what a car with understeer will do instead of a car that's constantly trying to spin out, of course. And in that regard, this is much more controlled than the GT40, even though it's not quite as quick. Now, if you want it to be even stiffer, you could take both of those all the way up to 60, and vice versa. If you want it to be a bit looser, take it down to, say, 40. But be careful once you get lower than that. And as far as the gearbox, I haven't touched the individual gears, but you want the fully customized transmission, and then I've gone for an auto setting of 186 miles per hour. And then that's basically it. You've got more than enough straight line speed and handling to win the event, but of course, let's prove that by showing it in the race itself. Now, for those of you who have used my money earning tunes before, you'll pretty much know the drill at this point, of course. Avoid the other cars, try to keep the race as clean as possible, and in the case of the Miura, you might expect it to be a little bit like the GT40, in as much as it's a little bit tail happy, a little bit light on its feet, perhaps a little bit land yacht-ish, which these cars usually are. But the funny thing is, I would say the Miura is actually more stable than the GT40, but sometimes to a fault. It does have a tendency to be heavier on the steering side of things. Now, in order to get the best out of it, I would recommend braking a little bit before you enter the corner. Make sure you're braking while you're in a straight line, because you can easily lock up even with ABS, and that accentuates, of course, the heavy steering. But allow the car to coast into the corner, of course, ease onto the power as you exit, as with most of the tunes, of course. But with this one, you'll get a pretty quick feeling of the handling. The car doesn't really do anything unpredictable, it's very easy to use, and this tune of course doesn't earn you any more than the GT40 or the KTM Crossbow, so again, if you're completely new to my tunes like this, I would recommend using the KTM first, because although it's a little bit slipperier, it's so much cheaper, so it's just easy to do. And if you're an absolute novice, you could try out the Porsche 911, which is probably still the easiest one that I've done, you just earn a little bit less for it. So if you do decide to use this tune, as you can see, the laps are a little bit slower than the GT40, you're running around 48 seconds, doubtless people could easily get it lower than I do, people usually do, and so if you decide to use this tune, or of course any of my other tunes on the channel, not just for money, but for drag racing, top speed racing, circuit racing, a variety of other things, then of course I hope you enjoy those and win plenty of events with them. But for now, as always, thanks for watching.